In the back rooms of Boston taverns in 1765, the American resistance began with shopkeepers, printers, and dock workers. These men held no office and commanded no armies, yet they met in secret to challenge the unmatched military and economic might of the British Empire. The conflict started with a balance sheet. Britain had just emerged victorious from the 7 Years' War, but the cost of winning an empire left the crown drowning in a massive mountain of national debt. This sheet shows the red stamps required by the 1765 Stamp Act. Parliament used this to bypass colonial assemblies and impose a direct tax. The law mandated stamps on everyday paper, newspapers, contracts, playing cards. It was an inescapable grievance touching all of colonial society. The outrage centered on a constitutional breach. By taxing the colonies directly, Parliament was exercising authority over a people who held 0 seats in that legislature. Facing an empire with no legal voice and no standing army, the colonists had to develop a strategy of asymmetric resistance to survive. A small group of Boston artisans, known as the Loyal Nine, realized that pamphlets weren't enough. They pivoted to a strategy of visible, undeniable public pressure, designed to make the tax laws impossible to enforce. Their first tactical execution targeted Andrew Oliver, the official appointed to distribute the stamps. They crafted a likeness of him and hung it from a prominent elm tree, turning a public space into a stage for defiance. The theater worked. Fearing the thousands who gathered beneath the effigy, Oliver resigned his post before he could sell a single stamp in Massachusetts. However, mobilizing crowds proved difficult to contain. Less than 2 weeks later, a mob went beyond targeted pressure and completely gutted the mansion of the lieutenant governor, destroying his personal library and furniture. Political theater effectively paralyzed the British bureaucracy, but it carried the constant risk of shifting from strategic protest into indiscriminate violence. By 1770, thousands of British troops were quartered in Boston, living among a hostile population. In March, a chaotic street brawl on King Street ended when soldiers discharged their muskets into a crowd of colonists. The Sons of Liberty moved to weaponize the tragedy. They recognized that 5 deaths, if framed correctly, could serve as a powerful political tool against royal authority. This engraving by Paul Revere depicts an organized execution, not a brawl. British troops are shown firing a coordinated volley into the crowd. Revere removed signs of colonial aggression, presenting victims as a helpless assembly, ensuring the public saw a massacre perpetrated by tyrants. The strategy proved that the narrative surrounding an event could exert more political force than the event itself. When the 1773 Tea Act lowered the price of tea while maintaining the tax, the Sons of Liberty saw a trap. Accepting the cheaper goods meant accepting Parliament's right to tax them. Their response was a disciplined surgical strike. A group of men boarded 3 ships in Boston Harbor and systematically destroyed 342 chests of tea belonging to the East India Company. This was a calculated act of economic sabotage, not a riot. The participants damaged no other property and committed no violence, specifically to prevent the British from dismissing the act as common theft. The destruction was designed to create a constitutional crisis, forcing the British government to either back down or overreact. Britain chose to overreact. In 1774, Parliament passed the Intolerable Acts, closing Boston's port and stripping Massachusetts of its self-government to isolate the colony from its neighbors. The Sons of Liberty neutralized this isolation through an underground network, the Committees of Correspondence. Rapid communication lines linked the colonies, ensuring an attack on one was felt by all. This coordinated relief for Boston and organized a unified response at the First Continental Congress. By the time the first shots were fired at Lexington and Concord, the organizational structures of a new government were already functioning. The Sons of Liberty demonstrated that a decentralized network, utilizing media control and economic pressure, could dismantle the authority of an empire. Their methods provided the organizational foundation that the American Revolution would eventually build upon.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really helps us.